Have you ever considered the financial implications of climate change? It's not just about rising sea levels or more frequent forest fires. It also has a profound impact on our pocketbooks. Addressing climate change involves two major strategies: mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation refers to actions aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, while adaptation involves preparing for the impacts of climate change. Both of these strategies require a hefty financial commitment. Now, you might think, that's too expensive, but let's flip the coin. The costs of inaction are far greater. If we do nothing, we'll have to deal with the catastrophic effects of climate change, such as extreme weather events and loss of biodiversity. These effects translate into billions of dollars in damages, not to mention the immeasurable cost to human life and welfare. So it's not a question of whether we can afford to address climate change. The real question is whether we can afford not to. The financial aspects of climate change are as real as the rising temperatures. So, where do we stand in terms of climate financing? Let's dive into the numbers. These figures are necessary to understand the scale of the challenge we face. Currently, global investments in climate mitigation and adaptation are in the ballpark of hundreds of billions of dollars annually. Now that might sound like a lot, but let's compare that to the potential costs of climate change impacts if we fail to act. Estimates suggest that if we continue on our current trajectory, the cost of climate change impacts could reach tens of trillions of dollars globally by the end of the century. That's a staggering figure, isn't it? It's like comparing a drop in the ocean to the ocean itself. This stark contrast illustrates that the current level of investment is far from sufficient. We are essentially bringing a water pistol to a wildfire. The disparity is not just significant, it's monumental. It's a chasm that can't be overlooked or downplayed. In the face of such a daunting financial challenge, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But understanding the scale of the problem is the first step towards finding a solution. We need to bridge the gap between our current spending and the actual funds required to combat climate change. Clearly, there is a large gap between what we are spending on climate action and what is actually needed. We must confront this reality head-on if we are to secure a sustainable future for our planet. But who is responsible for bridging this gap? The answer lies in the role of international organizations in climate financing. These organizations are not just bystanders, they're the heavy lifters working tirelessly behind the scenes. They play a key role in mobilizing funds, providing technical assistance, and promoting policy reforms to support climate action. Take, for instance, the Green Climate Fund. This international organization is dedicated to assisting developing countries in their response to climate change. They mobilize billions of dollars every year, supporting projects that both mitigate the effects of climate change and help communities adapt to its inevitabilities. Then there's the World Bank. This behemoth of an organization doesn't just lend money to countries, it's also a significant player in climate financing. Through initiatives like the Climate Investment Funds, the World Bank has been pivotal in driving low-carbon, climate-resilient development. And let's not forget the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This organization provides the framework for international cooperation against the climate crisis. It's through their efforts that we have important agreements like the Paris Agreement, a worldwide commitment to limit global warming. These are just a few examples of the many organizations working to bridge the financial gap in climate action. They're the ones pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo, and paving the way for a more sustainable future. International organizations are crucial players in the global effort to finance climate action. Looking ahead, what is the future of climate financing? As we move forward, it's clear that a significant increase in investment in climate action is not just desirable, but necessary. We're talking about a world where the stakes are high and the clock is ticking. Innovative financing mechanisms are emerging as a beacon of hope in this scenario. Green bonds, for instance, are a fantastic way to raise money specifically for climate and environmental projects, while climate funds can help mobilize additional resources. But the responsibility doesn't fall on these mechanisms alone. It's a shared burden, a collective responsibility. Governments, businesses, and individuals alike need to step up their game, making bold financial commitments to tackle the climate crisis head-on. The path ahead is challenging, but with the right investment and commitment, it's a path we can navigate. Because remember, the future of our planet depends on our financial commitment to climate action today. Let's make sure we're on the right side of history.